Hey everyone, what's going on? I know that this topic has already been covered, but I want to go a little bit more in depth with it here. So, there's this rapper named Dr. Creep that has a song called Pandemic that was put out on YouTube on June 21st of 2013. And notice in the background here of this music video, he's got the guy wearing the quarantine style stuff, the gas mask and whatever. And then we got the toilet paper up here in the cupboard, right? And think about coronavirus and toilet paper. What is the purpose of it? I'll show that in a second. But if you go and listen to the music video around the 108 mark, he even says the lyrics, 2020 combined with coronavirus, bodies stacking. So let's listen to this really quick. So they show the toilet paper, then a few seconds later, he says 2020 combined with coronavirus, bodies stacking. And this, song was put out on YouTube on June 21st of 2013. And in the language of gematria here, the esoteric practice of coding numbers into words and phrases that I'm sure this guy knows about, considering when you read his profile, it talks about he delivers raw underground hip-hop. It's controversial, dark, esoteric, epic, and conscious with ancient wisdom and forbidden knowledge, right? And we talk about how this is esoteric knowledge. Most people don't know about it. It's forbidden knowledge and so on, right? You have to ask the right questions to ever find this out. But notice in gematria here, if you write out toilet paper, it equals 56. And if you write out coronavirus, it also equals 56. And there's a number of other things, such as Kobe Bryant with the crown tattoo on his arm, and he was buried in Corona del Mar, that equals 56. Corona is Latin for the word crown, and, you got the Lakers have King James, and Luke Walton, the former Lakers coach, is now the coach of the Sacramento Kings, and a number of other things. But, this number 56, toilet paper 56, adds coronavirus 56. It also got big in the media on New Year's Eve, that equals 56. Even if you write out 2020, it equals 56. Bill Gates and Melinda Gates had this event called Event 201 that was about a coronavirus pandemic killing 65 million people. And that event was held 56 days before the original date of patient 0 of coronavirus. And the WHO said get ready for a pandemic on the 56th day of the year, and much, much more with the number 56 and coronavirus. But I was looking through this Dr. Creep guy, and all these people were calling him out for having that lyric in the song. And if you went to his channel, I can't find the video anymore, but I took a screenshot of it. On March 31st, he posted another video showing that he had proof that his pandemic video wasn't edited for him to predict it or whatever. He had just supposedly researched a lot, and he figured it out. That's basically what I got out of what he was saying. And he even left this comment here. I don't have time to dig up all the pieces for you to put a picture together. Though most probably won't even watch this 56-minute interview vid, even though they want answers to how I knew, right? So he even puts in his comments that he knew this partially because of a 56-minute video that he had watched a long time ago or whatever, right? 56-minute video. He later goes on to show in this video how he posted the song was actually created on New Year's Eve of 2012. New Year's Eve, the day that coronavirus got popular in the media this year as well. And, bubonic plague also equals 56. And when you go to this video that he posted, it's all written in Chinese, ZH-CN Chinese, and the reason that they did that was because this guy in the video talked about the Illuminati in a secret meeting or whatever, and how they were going to have this virus that started in China and whatnot, and supposedly he's trying to alert the Chinese people, so he put all this in Chinese and whatever else. But the title of the video, in Francis Bacon gematria, these two ciphers the ciphers that I've been talking about are really important to this year, and so on. If you're at ZHCN, it equals 155, just like coronavirus equals 155 as well. And the channel is Alpha Zebra, that equals 142, just like coronavirus equals 142. You know, and then it's all written in Chinese, and so on. And what else is interesting about this guy? If you look more into this rapper here, Dr. Creep, these are all of his albums here. And notice in 2007, he started doing these albums with a rapper called Sacrifice in Numbers. What are the odds of that name? Sacrifice in Numbers? I mean, how many times have we talked about how, you know, this is going on? Like, the band Slipknot has a song called Gematria, the Killing Name, right? Gematria, the Killing Name. Think about this. You know, and then Slipknot, you know, their bass player, Paul Gray, he died at the age of 38, and his name equals 38. You know, Paul Gray, 38, the word gematria equals 38. It's important to Kabbalah that equals 38. His nickname was also the Pig. The Pig equals 38, and so on, right? Dies 38. His name equals 38. He also died 4 months, or 46 days after his birthday, and 1 month and 16 days after his birthday. 116, 46, just like Slipknot, and so on. Gematria, the Killing Name. We also talked about the band called The Police that has this song called Murder by Numbers. And it's going to bring up the movie here, but the band The Police have a song called Murder by Numbers on their album called Synchronicity. Just want to point it out here. Synchronicity, Murder by Numbers. And in the song he says, murder by numbers, 1, 2, 3, it's as easy as your ABCs, right? Sacrifice in numbers. There's people killing people by this code. And look at the movie cover here for Murder by Numbers. Notice how they changed the E to a 3 and the B to an 8, right? The only letters that they change are these, 3 and 8. And look at the word murder in gematria. Murder, 83, 38. The star of that movie, Sandra Bullock, 83, right? Murder by numbers. So, how interesting that this guy, you know, he claims, I guess he doesn't necessarily claim that he doesn't know about this information, but interesting he would say, watch this 56-minute video, you know, to show how he understood it. And then he also does albums with a guy named Sin, Sacrifice in Numbers. It's also interesting, too, just another example of gematria where it happens every day, all the time. But if you type in Dr. Creep and go to Wikipedia, it gives you this person, a different Dr. Creep. And notice this guy died at the age of 69, and Dr. Creep in gematria equals 69. And his real name is Barry Lee Hobart, that also equals 69. 69. He died at age 69. His name is Dr. Creep, that equals 69. You know, what are the odds? But these two rappers are from Phoenix, Arizona. And what sticks out to me the most about this is that the NBA has played this really big part in the coronavirus outbreak. And I mean, just think about how many NBA players and so on have got the coronavirus, and, you know, the NBA got suspended, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump declares it a national emergency on 3/13, which is the 65th prime number, and the word pandemic equals 65. And Bill and Melinda Gates had that event that said 65 million people would die, and so on, right? Bill Gates is going to be 65 years old this year. So is Melinda Gates. And if you go clear back to last summer, I was talking all about this major theme with how Kobe Bryant and the Houston Rockets were synced up to China. And also it was synced up to the Batman movie that had the shooting in 2012, the Aurora Batman shooting, that just so happened to be on the date of 7/20, which is the anniversary of the moon landing. It was the 43rd anniversary of the moon landing, and if you write out Aurora, it equals 43, right? And so does the word pandemic. But in the previews for that movie, they had the movie called Skyfall by James Bond, and they had Aurora written on a building. And then later that night, Aurora, Colorado supposedly got shot up at the movie theater of the Batman premiere. So I've been following this big theme, and that building was a building in China, right? And then the Joker movie came out on October 4th, and that just so happened to be the same day that the Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey had tweeted about China, right? And there's this big controversy with China. And South Park had also had an episode called Mexican Joker in September. Mexican Joker. Then the next episode was Banned in China, right? Banned in China, and they had that controversy with China. And that episode came out just 2 days before Daryl Morey's tweet and just before the Joker movie. And then the next episode of South Park was about vaccines, and Cartman turned into a pig and would run away from the doctor because he didn't want to get his vaccine. And last year was a Chinese pig year. That's why it was all important. And I kept talking about how, Yao Ming was important, and Jeremy Lin, who used to play for the Lakers and the Houston Rockets, and he was born on the same day as Kobe Bryant, and all of these things going on with it. And then, of course, Kobe Bryant dies, and then coronavirus gets humongous in the United States. But anyway, I'll leave some links in the description. I just want to get the point across that the NBA is important to this coronavirus stuff, and these guys being from Phoenix, Arizona just reminds me of the Phoenix Suns, and I know in gematria that Phoenix Suns equals 56, just like coronavirus. And, the sun is also important because sun, remember how corona means crown, and if you look up corona, it actually can refer to the stellar corona, a corona, which is the plasma that is around the sun and other stars, the crown that is around it. And recall that Steph Curry got injured earlier in the beginning of the season against the Phoenix Suns, and then Steph Curry made his comeback and on 3-5, and then the Warriors, his team, were going to be the first team to play in an empty arena with no fans just before they suspended the season. But the reason this is important is because the word Stephen also means crown, just like corona. Stephen means crown. I mentioned a whole lot of this stuff back in 2017 when we got the death of Isaiah Thomas's sister, China Thomas. And she died in a Toyota Camry. The word Camry also means crown, and she died in King County, Washington, in a Toyota Camry, that means crown. Her brother Isaiah Thomas was the former player for the Sacramento Kings, and he wore the number 22, and in gematria, King equals 22, and his sister died at the age of 22. And I also mentioned how it was synced up to the Houston Rockets, who play in the Toyota Center, right? And they, there was a major space theme going on in 2017. In November of 2016, I talked about a moon and space theme and how it was synced up to Neil Armstrong and Eugene Cernan, who was the last guy to step foot on the moon. 2 weeks later, John Glenn died. Then we got a story about Buzz Aldrin being hospitalized. And then in January, Eugene Cernan died. And he died on the same day that the Golden State Warriors blew out the Cleveland Cavaliers with King LeBron James on the team, and they won by 35 points. And, Kevin Durant wore number 35. There's a whole bunch of other 35 stuff that I can't think of off the top of my head. But in the mix of all this, I mentioned how it was important that China had recently been ramping up their space program, and I was talking about how Houston is important to space as well. Houston, we have a problem, so on, right? And once again, all of this is somehow intertwined into this moon landing that was on 7/20. This year's going to be the 51st anniversary. That Batman shooting just so happened to be on the anniversary of the moon landing as well. And then just after the Batman shooting in August that year of 2012, we got the death of Neil Armstrong on August 25th. Neil Armstrong, the first guy to walk on the moon. He died 1 month and 5 days after the moon landing anniversary and also after the Batman shooting. And what's interesting about that is if you write out moon in gematria, it equals 15 and 51, a lot like 1 month and 5 days. Moon equals 51. This year's going to be the 51st anniversary. The word conspiracy equals 51. Think about Area 51. You know, think about how the Air Force is important to that. Air Force 51, Reptilians 51. There's the famous alien case called the Lubbock Lights. Lubbock Lights equal 51. It happened in the year 51. Another famous conspiracy is 9/11. 9/11 equals 51. And these Francis Bacon ciphers, if you write out JFK, it also equals 51. You can do that for yourself if you come to this website, but JFK, another famous conspiracy thing, right? 51. And Steph Curry was really important to all of this as well because you had Kyrie Irving that year saying that he thought the earth was flat. He was a player on the same team as LeBron King James. And then later that year, I think in December, Steph Curry said that he thought the moon landing was fake on some podcast. And then they had this whole thing with Steph Curry and NASA. He had to go to NASA and they proved that the moon landing wasn't a hoax, supposedly, to him. And then Steph Curry wore these moon shoes in the game against the Houston Rockets, of all teams. So, just want to point this out here. I know I wrote it in here, but Steph Curry said that the moon landing was a hoax, and then he ended up playing the Houston Rockets, and he wore these moon shoes, and notice he scored 35 points. This was also important because, you know, he scored 35 points, and this actually happened on the same day that we got a story about China landing on the dark side of the moon, right? China supposedly landed on the dark side of the moon. If you write dark side, it equals 35. Far side equals 35. The name of the rover was U-22. If you write that out, it equals 35. Curry scored 35 points in that game. Eugene Cernan died on the same day the Warriors blew out LeBron James's team by 35 points. King James also equals 35. That was another one of them. Kevin Durant wore the number 35. But, you know, I'm mentioning all of this just because these two guys are from Phoenix, and I had an epiphany about it because they're important to the Sun. Corona's important to the Sun. Stephen's important to all of this because he got injured against the Phoenix Suns in the beginning of the season. And, you know, Corona is important to the crown, and Stephen means crown. And Stephen made his return to the NBA this year on the date of 3/5, right? 35. And they played the Raptors. Raptors equal 35. You know, and the bigger ritual and the joke is that that's the team that he lost to in the NBA Finals last year, too. And that team was synced up to Kobe Bryant because the Raptors are the team that Kobe Bryant once made his comeback against after tearing his Achilles. And it's also the same team that he scored his 81 points against. And, you know, a number of other things. That's why Dwight Howard is back on the Lakers team this year because he was going to turn 34, and everything about Kobe's Achilles injury was the number 34. He tore at age 34. He scored 34 points in the game. And that's when the Warriors with Steph Curry got real big and popular and better and so on. And Kobe tore his Achilles against the Golden State Warriors, and he made his comeback 34 weeks later on Dwight Howard's birthday against the Toronto Raptors. And, you know, that's why I predicted LeBron James to get injured last year in connection to the number 34. He's going to be 34 years old. Then LeBron got injured on the Lakers' 34th game of the season against the Golden State Warriors of all teams. And then Kobe died on the 3rd month and 4th day of the NBA season this year, just after Dwight Howard turned 34 years old. But I'm bringing all this up, too, because, you know, when Steph Curry got injured, he got injured in the game against the Suns 39 days before Dwight Howard's birthday and 39 days before Kobe Bryant died. So, and Dwight Howard wears number 39, and all of this stuff goes back to Batman and the Aurora shooting, and notice how Batman equals the same as Moon. Batman also equals 39. But let's go back up here. China. So we got Raptors 35, Suns 35, King James 35, China 35, NASA 35. You know, he wore the moon shoes in the game against Houston on the same day that China's lands on the dark side of the moon, 35, far side, 35, U-2, 235. Scores 35 points in that game. Also think about Seattle too, right? Seattle's where the coronavirus in the United States supposedly began. Think about the Space Needle. And think about that in regards to coronavirus and vaccines and how it connects to space, the Space Needle. So there's something important to that. The first confirmed case in the United States was even a 35-year-old who lived in Seattle, right? The 35-year-old person on January 21st. Warriors equal 121. We've talked about how it's connected to Revelation that equals 121. Also, in the game where Curry injured his hand against the Suns, the Suns scored 121 points. And then in his comeback against the Raptors scored 121 points. So I know that it is synced up to coronavirus, 3-5 was also the 65th day of the year this year. Remember how the word pandemic equals 65. So I even mentioned in here, I'm starting to think the reason James Bond is so important, it's because of the moon. Because in 2017 in May, we had the death of a guy who played James Bond named Roger Moore. And he just so happened to be in the movie where it's the only James Bond movie where they go to the moon. And just after that movie, the guy who started directing all of the James Bond movies, his name was John Glenn, right? Reminding me of the famous astronaut, the first American to orbit the Earth, right? And remember how John Glenn died just after I started talking about the space moon theme, and he just so happened to die on Dwight Howard's birthday. This big day important to all the stuff that's going on. And they recently just canceled the James Bond movie, the new James Bond movie that was supposed to come out. I think it was called No Time to Die. We'll see if it comes up here. Yeah, they canceled this movie, or they pushed it back due to coronavirus, just after I had talked about that. And, of course, Daniel Craig equals 56, just like coronavirus. The guy who plays James Bond, his name equals 83 too, just like how James Bond equals 83. And the movie was supposed to premiere 111 days before the moon landing, and the word Batman equals 111. So there's definitely something important to it. Kobe Bryant's also synced up to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith, and Will Smith was in Independence Day, the movie important to space and aliens. But we also just got the death of the lady named Pussy Galore. What's her name? Honor Blackman from James Bond, right? This lady dies. And she was in the movie Goldfinger, right? She was Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. And in this movie, it has Sean Connery as James Bond. And look at his birthday as August 25th. That's pretty important considering Neil Armstrong also died on August 25th, one month and 5 days after the moon landing. And it was in 2012 after the Batman shooting that showed Aurora in the James Bond film in the preview. So Sean Connery also equals 56. Sean Connery equals 56. So might be a guy to watch out for. August 25th too. Also interesting because there's also this thing called the Great Moon Hoax that happened in 1835. And notice how it happened on August 25th. That's when it went to the papers. The same day that Neil Armstrong, the first guy to walk on the moon, dies. He dies 177 years exactly after this Great Moon Hoax, right? And they attributed the discoveries to this guy named John Herschel. Well, that's very important too, because look at John Glenn here. Look at John Glenn's name is. John Herschel Glenn Jr., right? The Great Moon Hoax, attributed to John Herschel, and then it happens on the same day in history that the first guy to supposedly walk on the moon dies. what else is really interesting in regards to synchronicity was the other day I was playing guitar for the first time in a while, and because I don't know, I used to play guitar like every second of every day, and now I really don't anymore. But I was playing the song "I Feel Like Making Love" that most people would know from Bad Company, but like it's also covered by the band Goldfinger, and they're like a punk band from the 90s and so on. And I was playing that song for some random reason, and then I was telling my girlfriend how the band Goldfinger actually covers it, and the first ever concert that I went to was Goldfinger and Weird Al. And I know, odd combination, but Goldfinger opened up for Weird Al in Sioux City, Iowa. I can't remember what year it was, but I think I was probably like 13, somewhere around there. And anyway, so I was making this blog post, and because Bobby had told me about, I was talking about the Malaysian airline and some other things, and how it was important to Neptune, the planet. And Bobby was telling me how Neptune on the Tree of Life is actually represented by Kether, or however you pronounce this, which is the crown on the Tree of Life. And I thought, how interesting, you know? And it also talked about how Neptune controls the pineal gland and whatever in this article. So it was like pineal gland, Neptune, Kether, and I noticed they all equal 95 in gematria. Even the guy who discovered the planet Neptune, his name equals 95. My name equals 95. My full name equals 95. You know, so I just thought that was interesting. And I went back to look at some of my old videos where I talked about Neptune and whatnot from way back in the day. And I noticed that it doesn't have a date on the video. But all my other videos have dates, except for, I don't even know, I just noticed it didn't have a date. And I thought, why doesn't it have a date? So I started looking at some of my other videos, and they all had the dates on them. So I wondered where it quit showing the dates on the videos. And it goes clear back to this video. The Ice Bucket Challenge was where it starts. And this Weird Al Ebola virus video still has the date on it. And all the videos from then until now, as far as I know, still have the date on them. And I put this video out on August 27th, 2014, and I thought, what are the odds it would be the Weird Al video, considering, you know, the lady from the movie Goldfinger just died, and I had this synchronicity singing that song to my girlfriend, telling her about my first concert that was Weird Al and Goldfinger, you know, August 27th, 2014. And this is an interesting date this year. If you go back to the lion theme that I was following last year, and I was talking about how it was important to Ethiopia and the lion of the tribe of Judah, who is Haile Selassie, and so on, I discovered that the Ethiopian calendar is different than the Gregorian and the Julian and so on. They believe that this year is the year 2012. And on August 27th of this year, August 27th, 2020, on the Gregorian calendar, it's actually going to be 12/21 of the year 12 on the Ethiopian calendar. And I started thinking about the Mayan calendar, right? And how this is important. Haile Selassie also died on August 27th. So, you know, 12/21, 12, you know, interesting with all this stuff. My Weird Al video was even about the Ebola virus, right? Because he has a song called Your Horoscope for Today, and he says something about try to avoid any Virgos or Leos with the Ebola virus. And at the time, Ebola got really big during the time of Virgo and Leo in 2014. So I was just wondering about Weird Al. Weird Al also admits that he hides the number 27 and all kinds of stuff. It's his favorite number, and he's attracted to it, and so on. If you look up Weird Al and the number 27, you'll find all kinds of stuff. He even went on like Wheel of Fortune, and twice, and he won like $2,700 the first time, and then I can't remember what the other one was. It was something to do with the 27 in it, right? 2772, and you know, after I learned gematria, Weird Al Yankovic, his name equals 172. And I thought it was interesting if he wrote out 27, it also equaled 172. Also, if you just write out Weird Al equals 72, right? The reflection of 27. So, Anyway, I've covered a whole bunch about Weird Al over the years, but I also noticed that August 27th is 7 months, 6 days after the coronavirus began in the United States. And recently I've been talking about the big tiger theme, right? And the word tiger equals 76. And I started thinking about Weird Al. I work in the kitchen, and a lot of times I bust out Weird Al songs. And a song that I just remember big time is the song called The Rye or the Kaiser, which is a play on The Eye of the Tiger. And the reason I thought of that was because the other day when I was watching Tiger King, at the very end of the very last episode, the fat guy is riding on the Wave Runner and they're playing the song Eye of the Tiger. And I remember associating that with the Rye or the Kaiser because it was a fat guy, you know, eating food or whatever. And it's on Weird Al's food album, Rye or the Kaiser. And they're playing Eye of the Tiger. So I started thinking about that song. And, you know, then this happened with Weird Al. And I looked up the song Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger also equals 76, just like the word tiger. And it's famous for the movie Rocky, the Sylvester Stallone movie. And he's born on 7/6. I believe Rocky's character is even born on 7/6. You know, Sylvester's also a cat, something I've talked about a whole lot. But Rocky equals 27 and 72. It's singing up the Weird Al. The band Eye of the Tiger, the song Eye of the Tiger is by the band Survivor, right, of all things. And also, the band Queen was actually supposed to be used in this movie, Rocky 3. The reason that the Eye of the Tiger was used in Rocky 3 was because Queen wouldn't give them permission. And think about how the Queen is connected to all of this, right? You know, Queen Elizabeth is connected into it, Crown, and so on. So, I just find it really funny. 7/6. Maybe the date of 7/6. Interesting day. It's the 188th day this year, which is important because the word Illuminati equals 188, or Bavarian Illuminati equals 188. It's also George W. Bush's birthday. It's also Zion Williamson's birthday. And remember how Zion Williamson's important to Kobe Bryant and Zion and so on. So, interesting day. 7/6 this year. The synchronicity I had with Weird Al was 142 days before August 27th, and coronavirus equals 142. So does Weird Al and the Francis Bacon ciphers. So, I don't know. You know, I have synchronicity all day, every day. It's just ridiculous. I know I'm getting off topic here, but I mean, it just happens all the time. It's not even funny. The other day I was at work, and I was singing an old Bush song, and the girl I work with said she'd never heard of the band Bush, so I showed her the band Bush, and then randomly she started telling me how she likes the band Green Day. And for whatever reason, whenever I hear the band Green Day, I think of the movie Angus, because there's a part where the kid is trying to win tickets or whatever on the radio, the Shermanator from American Pie, who I just documented about. But I started thinking about the movie Angus, and a few minutes later, I went over and was looking at my phone, and I went to Zach's blog, and he had randomly posted about this guy named David Roback. The founder of the band Mazzy Star had died on February 24th, you know, and he randomly documents about this in April. And it's funny because Mazzy Star is also famous because of the movie Angus, right? At the part at the end where he gets to dance with Melissa, the hot chick or whatever, the song Fade Into You is played by Mazzy Star. So, and there's a number of other things. James Vanderbeek's the bad guy in that movie. And when I talked about American Pie and the Neptune stuff, I was talking about Jay and Silent Bob and how Jason Biggs is going to portray Jay and Silent Bob, and the other, I can't remember who's who in that, but James Vanderbeek's the other guy, and then Bob even says, oh, you're that Dawson dude or whatever. So James Vanderbeek. Then the Shermanators on American Pie. So Kathy Bates is Angus's mother, and in 2018, I was talking about a cat theme, and I also mentioned how Kathy Bates was important to that, so maybe there's something with her. That same girl, too, the other day, we got these new potato chips called fried green tomatoes, and that same girl was telling me about this movie, Fried Green Tomatoes, because of it. That also stars Kathy Bates. So I don't know. That's, you got to figure it out. You document it, and then it might take me 6 months or more, and then all of a sudden I'll say, hey, that's why this synchronicity with Kathy Bates happened. So that's why it's important to document these things with this knowledge. So it's a lot easier to have a blog or a notepad or something you can use a search tool to find what you're looking for too. Because way back in the day, I used to have stacks of papers, and it's a lot harder to find things that you were looking for that way. But I know this got way off topic compared to what I, began the video with, but in a way they are related. So I'm just kind of including multiple topics because I don't know how often I'll make videos. I'm really trying to make a lot more videos recently. My kid's getting a little bit older. My girlfriend actually works not nighttime anymore, so that helps out a lot. So she just started working days back in March. So she was working overnight, so I'd get off work at 6 and then have to watch the kids and then so on. So I got a little bit more time recently, but I don't know. We'll leave it at that. Have a good one. Peace.